Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus begambleaware.org.
Hello and welcome to this Friday Tipping Postcast. I'm Maddie Plell, joined in the studio by our top tipsters Paul Keeley and Keith Melrose, and we've also got Frank Hickey from Paddy Power on the line as well. How are we all? First off, good week, Keels?
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Backed a couple of winners.
Good.
Good position on the golf, so I'm not going to moan.
Right, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for more of the same throughout the weekend. What about you?
It's been quite a quiet week. I'm doing mostly stairs this year, so York's been, just been a bit race here and there. Looking forward to a bit more sort of this weekend, really.
Yeah, definitely. Lots to get our teeth stuck into. And Frank, what about you? Good sort of Punchestown and things like that?
Yeah, not bad. Keep me tipping away. I think the flat's a bit easier to punt rather than the end of season jumps, so delighted to have a bit of the flat back.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle. We'll jump on straight into it then. We'll go to Newbury. The 150 is the Shalar Carnarvon Stakes, a listed race over 6 furlongs. Frank, just run us through the betting.
Yeah, Moyasser is 11-4, Kadim and Red Impression are 4-1, Space Traveller 7-1, Dunkerrin and Concheck are 10-1, and we're 12's bar.
I was slightly surprised to see Moyasser as the favourite in there. Do you like him? Do you taking him on?
I think he was quite impressive at Newmarket. Travelled really well, wandered about, kind of drifted over to the far side. He's impressive. It was only a handicap. He wouldn't be my selection in the race. The one I liked at a bit of a price each way was Curious for Henry Candy. She's only had 4 starts. She gets a bit of weight here, being a filly. She won her debut at Sandown last year over 5. She was 2.5 lengths 9th in the Queen Mary. Obviously had a little bit of a setback then because she didn't reappear till later on in the season at Newmarket. I think the soft ground might have been against her when she disappointed slightly there. But her reappearance run at Sandown over 5 was quite eye-catching. She was drawn wide, which is never ideal at Sandown over 5 furlongs, and she didn't get the clearest of runs, about a furlong out, but she rattled home to be beaten ahead by Leoda's Dream, who's gone in again at Chester. Subsequently, he's now £10 higher. She's a bit defined, and she'd be a good thing in a handicap off 95, but she's related to Alpha Delphini and Tangerine Tree, so she's definitely bred to be a group class sprinter, so she might be able to make the step up here, and she's a double figure price at the moment.
Yeah, I must admit my eye was drawn to her as well. Whether she can make this step up, we'll find out. Keith, what about you?
I thought Kadim was, it's another... A lot of the races we're looking at today are sort of take your pick of however many. They're all really, really competitive races. The one that jumped out a little bit at me is Kadim. I think that's got all the makings of a horse that's going to really improve this year. It was a bit of a nutter last year, really sort of free going type, like his brother Logger Island was, but he won this race, first past the post and later disqualified 3 years ago, was it? And this horse has got that sort of similar thing about him, and if he settles down at all this year, he's going to be significantly better 3-year-old. His form last year all stacks up really quite well, and he was just the one that, while I wouldn't be surprised if half a dozen won it, he's the one that jumped out at me.
Yeah, he was behind Calix on debut, I think, wasn't he? So that looked
second or third fab behind Calix, who was obviously well fancied.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a bit of a sexier profile, I think, probably than Curious. Keels, who are you taking a chance?
Yeah, he's the one that stuck out to me as well. Kadim, Cardem, whatever you want to call it. 1-2. They're just conditions race at Doncaster, but it's interesting that he improved his RPR, I think, by £21 on the second start, and then another 16 on the third start. And Charlie Hill said, we might run him in the Middle Park. He said he's still a big baby. We might run him in the Middle Park. Obviously, the owners had Jash to run in that. Just got beat by 10 Sovereigns. But he's in the Commonwealth Cup. He has to improve this year, and I think he's probably the one to be. Wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being favourite. I know Jim Crowley's on Moyasser, but I'm certainly not going to moan about Cardam's price at the moment.
Yeah, I was sort of inclined to agree with you there, thinking that he'd probably end up favourite with that sort of profile of the 2 wins. We'll move on to the 225, the Al Rayyan Stakes. Chris Lotion, he won it last year. Is it going to be a penalty kick for him again? Frank, what sort of price is he?
1-2 at the moment. Larib is 7-2. Raymond Tusk 8-1. Red Verdon 12-1, and his 20's bar.
Keith, can you find an each way angle in this, or is it just going to be?
Chris Lotion's likely to win it again. He's building up, but going back to Ascot, presumably. My main sort of look at this race was from the forecast purposes. I was not all that taken with Raymond Tusk run in the Cigarro. He was only 3/4 of a length. He was a better placed than the horse he beat 3/4 of a length for second, and that horse only shaped all right in the Chester Cup. It was better than the result. Cleonte, isn't it? That was, and that's a 101 rated horse that probably isn't much better than that, and he's not beaten by far. Raymond Tusk's had a lot of hard, stiff tasks in his career, and I think his form might sort of reflect the races he's been running in rather than how good he is. So I'd certainly be, if you're looking at him for an each-way play, I'd be less inclined to him than you playing a Larabe or someone like that.
Okay, that's a really interesting point. Keels?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I thought the time to take Crystal Ocean on was first time out over 1 mile 2 furlong, and he's run almost up to his very best 1.5 mile form, which suggests he's probably improved again. He's already got an absolute chunk in hand on the figures. If you like your short price bets of 1 to 2, he should probably be nearer 2 to 7 than 1 to 2. That's how I'm looking at it. Larabe, I don't think he wants fast ground. I only won a couple of times early in his career on fast ground, but he got 2 heavy defeats later on when he was up in class. And therefore it is. I totally agree with Keith about Raymond Tusk. He's also got a penalty. He's got a give weight to Crystal Ocean. You can't bet each way 7 runners. Doesn't mean it makes a problem, right? But there's a horse here that goes well first time out every year, and it's the complete outside with a lot. Top Tug. And you'll probably get a fair price. There will be betting without in the morning. They'll probably get a fair price about him. He lost his form a bit last year, but he started off, he was rated, he's run to Racing Post ratings of around 110-ish. Larabe's never done that on fast ground. Raymond Tusk would need to run to 115, 116 to beat him, giving him £5. Red Verdon just ran so badly last time, you just can't trust him, and the others aren't good enough. So I think Top Tug's got a serious shout of finishing second.
Would you be in the without markets or forecasts?
I'll be in the without market. I like the without market. But when you get a big outsider like that, you can bet 3 and 4 places on Betfair as well. And I think you can get some really good value about horses there.
Okay, value in a race where there's a 1 to 2 favourite. That's always what we're after. And Frank, finally.
Yeah, just Crystal Ocean will win. It's not a race that excites me greatly. He should win this very easily.
Okay, nice and simple. The 3 o'clock is a race that's been won by some really smart horses in the last couple of years. It's the Al Zabara London Gold Cup Handicap. Green Moon, Al Kazim, Cannock Chase, Time Test Defoe. Just a couple who have won it recently. Always a nice race to get your teeth stuck into. Keith, who have you plumped for?
It's a bit of a choose your fighter race, isn't it? It's basically what sort of the Wood Ditton used to be. It's always got smart horses coming through that have maybe often their first handicap start. And the one that just sort of nudged his nose in front of several other interesting horses for me was Majestic Dawn. Dotted up last time out, it was over a furlong further, but he's not bred to be slow really, and I think the fact that he's likely to be a slightly bigger price than some of the others is purely down to the fact he's not with as sexy a yard. He's got a good pedigree behind him. He's a horse that's really improved last time. And yeah, I mean, you're going to get a bigger price than you would about some of your more fancied sorts, and that caught my eye more than anything. Okay,
Frank, we'll go over to you. Just roll off the betting and give us your selection as well.
Currently, we have joint favourites. Forest of Dean and Solid Stone are both 9 to 2. Headman and Good Birthday are 6 to 1. Sinjari's 13 to 2. Macar 10 to 1. War Tiger, Majestic Dawn, Corto are 14 to 1, and we're 16s bar.
Brilliant. And who are you sweet on?
Yeah, I'm quite sweet on Good Birthday for Andrew Balding. Now, I would be almost in lump territory if the ground was a bit easier. The good to firm ground would be a slight concern for him. But if you go back, look through his form, like he was down the field on Davy, but in his second start he was touched off by Surrey Thunder at Windsor. Now that Surrey Thunder finished second in listed race and third in Group 3 in France, is rated 104. Good Birthday then won his maiden at Newbury over a mile, but he shaped there like he wanted further, staying on, got up on the line. And his handicap debut at Donny, he generated a really strong sectional performance there. He came from last to first, no problem. Wandered about when he got to the front and kind of veered right a little bit over towards the near rail. He got £8 for that, but I think he's up to defying that rise. As I said, the ground's a small concern. If this was good to soft ground, I'd be having a right bet on this, but I think he's really well handicapped still.
Okay, so just one slight note of caution then. Keels, we were chatting beforehand, I thought Headman was quite interesting, but it's a tough race, isn't it?
The problem is, he's rated 95 already, and the history of this race tells you there are going to be a lot of horses way ahead of their handicap marks. I think 6 of the last 9 winners ended up at least 2 stone higher. At the peak of their career, some within 3 or 4 runs. So you've got to weigh that in. I think only a couple of horses have won with a mark higher than 90, but I think both were also trained by Roger Charlton. Roger Charlton's only had 2 winners from 45 runners since April It's the start of April, which
It's one
makes you
for
worry.
well handicapped.
He hasn't. Yeah, it's a race for very well handicapped horses. I think there were 4 or 5 in the race last year that ended up a stone higher by the end of the season at least. So two that interested me. One was Solid Stone. The value's probably a little bit gone now. He beat War Tiger at Newmarket. Really stepped up. Thought he stayed on really strongly there. Liked the fast ground. Trainer won the race with Cannock Chase a few years ago. That was the 5th time he's won the race. And he put him in the King Edward VII afterwards, the Group 2 at Royal Ascot. There are a few in here that are in that race. So I think he's interesting. Price may have gone. And there's a Mark Johnson. Mark Johnson's won it 3 times, all with horses rated in the low to mid 80s. Sky Defender only won a Mickey Mouse race at Bath last time, but the ground was rock hard and it was going to be pretty fast at Newbury, judging by their go and stick reading. And he found plenty. He got into a right battle with that, but then went away again. And it's just a typical Mark Johnson improver. And given the number of horses that he's run in this race that have proved fantastically well handicapped afterwards, even the ones that don't win. I think Monte Rosso got beat off a mark of 85 in this. He's just got to be of interest because he's a big price.
Do you think there's a star like the ones I mentioned sort of lurking anywhere?
I bet there is. I couldn't be confident which one it is. It's a really tough race, but I bet there's at least one really decent horse in there.
Okay, well there's plenty of stars in the Lockinge Stakes, and that's what we're going to look at next at 2:40. It's the Alshire Cab Lockinge Stakes, Group 1. Now, what sort of support has there been around for Libravido, Frank?
Bits and bobs. He's not we're not getting blown away for him at all. So it'll be interesting to see whether he will go off favourite ahead of Lawrence tomorrow. I wouldn't say it's absolutely guaranteed he will.
Okay. And so what prices are they at the minute?
He's 7-2. Lawrence is 9-2. Beat the Bank 11-2. Lord Glitter 7-1. Sharjah Bridge 8-1. Mustachian Without Parole are both 10-1. Mythical Magic 12-1, and we're 16s bar.
Great race, isn't it? Considering our sort of mile division's been a bit weak for the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, I'm taking issue with it. It's not a great race. That's the whole point. It's a great race in terms of wide open betting heat that gets the juices flowing when it comes to wanting to have a punt. But great race. Vast majority of horses in this race would be no more than fair Group 2 horses in a decent year. Now I know Lawrence has won 4 Group 1s against her, 5 Group 1s against her own sex. She's really good. She's admirable, but she's rated 117. That's the highest rated in the race. There is only £2 between 13 of the 14 runners. There are 5 Group 1 winners in the field. 3 of them are in the bottom 4 in the betting, and there literally is nothing between any of them. Librido is 7-2. I think that's a terrible price. He's only run twice in 2 years. Hasn't won either of them. He got going a bit late last time, and he had a slow break, and he's moved to Aidan O'Brien, but he was hardly with a novice in the first place, was he? Trained by Andre Fabre. To me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, this should nearly be 7-1 the field, and I think you have to go down the other end of the betting for the value.
How many have you looked at?
I've looked at all of them. I can see I Can Fly running well. I can see Mythical Magic running well. But the one who's the biggest price of the lot, the silliest price, probably has the best single line of form in the race, is Romanised, who second time out last year won the Irish 2,000 guineas very easily on very, very fast ground, which he's going to get tomorrow. He was every single bit as eye-catching as Libravido in that race. He was giving Libravido £5, was only 2 heads behind him. And he's obviously been primed for this. He travelled like a really, really good horse there, just never got in the clear. And I just think he's an amazing price at 20-1. I mean, he could finish a close-up 7th.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then so could Libravido.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how tight it is. You know, Bilston Brook, as a classic winner, is the only one that's not rated within £2 of each other. You know, so I don't see why you should go anywhere near the front of the market the way it is.
It is a crazy spectacle, isn't it, Keith? But it's a race that is going to be great to watch, even if there isn't it sounds silly when you're saying it's about a 5-time Group 1 winner, but a superstar in there. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Lawrence is a 5-time Group 1 winner because she's so admirable and likeable, and she tries really hard, and she's got a really good level of ability. But like a lot of milers that have come and sort of ostensibly dominated the division in recent years, they're not top class Group 1 horses. They're just Group 1 horses that are consistent and likeable in a time where you can win a lot of mile Group 1s. And she, for that reason, she might go again. But I'm sort of with Keogh's. I did love the way Libravido shaped last time at Naas. I thought, and that horse has only been brought back to win a Group 1 and put in training with O'Brien for that specific purpose. So you can take last time for exactly what it is, but definitely take the point about price. And I did think this race had shock written all over it, really. It's one of those races, when you have a division that doesn't have standout horses.
Another accidental agent coming on in there.
But I don't need to go over it because Keels has said exactly what I thought about Romanized. If you're looking at Libreville at all at 7-2, you need to be looking at Romanized at 20s. It's as simple as that. And I did have my doubts at the time about that Irish Guineas form, but when he comes into a Lockinge like this, you can put those to one side a little bit because, this is a relatively ordinary Group 1. That was a relatively ordinary sort of classic for what it was. So, I think in the price terms, in a race that has got shock written all over it, that's all you've got to be looking at.
Yeah. I agree with you, definitely. But he was a bit disappointing afterwards, wasn't he?
Yeah, he disappointed enough as well. Ascot behind Without Parole, another with a chance. He missed the break and he raced right wide all the time. And I think the rest of the season he just didn't have his ground. I think he wants it really, really fast. And he wants a fair gallop. And I think there probably is going to be a fair gallop in there because Ostilio likes to go from the front. And whether he's in there to make it for Sharjah Bridge, who definitely wants them to go hard, I don't know. But I mean, I think there'll be a solid enough gallop, and we don't know what I Can Fly can do. What he's going to do either. She might go on as well. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think we're going to end up with a fairly strong run race, and that'll suit him. And I just think it's just too big.
How's the market going to go in this race? I
don't know. I mean, I cannot understand.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
I mean,
might end up going off Fav, like Frank says, just because she's such a known quantity.
She should go off favourite because she's won 5 Group 1s. I mean, she's far more successful.
Fan favourite as well.
Any of the other runners in the race. But Carl Burke has said that he's a bit worried about the form of his string. He says she's okay, but then you don't find that out until they run, do you? When you've got that negative, so she could even take a big walk. I mean, Andrew Baldwin says Beat the Bank is, far better than he was last year, but he had an absolute shocker in this race last year, didn't he?
So I can believe that what he says though from why we ran before. It's
Let's give Frank's opinion a go. Frank, who are you sweet on?
I can agree with the lads in that I think that this is ripe for a bit of a turn up, and the one I fell down on was Ostilio. Now, funnily enough, I actually thought he might get a little bit of a freebie in front here. Lawrence might be handy, but other than that, most of them like to be, held up or mid-division, and if he got loose in the front, we saw last year in the Britannia and even at Longchamp when he won the Grade 2, he can be very difficult to peg back. Oisin Murphy, when he rides for Simon Christmer, has a pretty decent strike rate. He's had 40 rides in the last 5 years, 8 winners in 10 seconds. Now this horse, obviously at Ascot he was given a brilliant ride by Sylvester D'Souza, and he was only winning off a mark of 90 there. But he's been very progressive. He's only had 10 runs in his career, had 4 wins, 5 seconds, and the only unplaced effort was last time at France. Now, it seemed to be a bit of a prep, and when his chance was gone, he just coasted home. You need to forgive him that, but he didn't wear the tongue tie that day, and I think that's a big key here. He's worn the tongue tie on its own 5 times, and he's had 3 wins in 2 seconds when that's been applied. So I think it's significant that's back on. I've seen reports he may have had a wind up as well prior to that run in France. I just think he's very interesting, and I think there's a chance he'll get an easy lead, and if he does, he could well hang on in front.
Yeah, I must admit, I thought he was one who could perhaps step up this year, and he's certainly shaped that way a couple of times. We'll take a quick break now before we look at the rest of the weekend's action.
So, does an each-way bet mean that my horse has to do part of the race in reverse?
Everyone loves a newbie. That's why Paddy Power Games are giving all new customers 60 free spins on daily jackpot games. New Paddy Power Games customers only, 1 per customer. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this Friday tipping postcast. We've gone from Newbury and we're now going to go to Newmarket. We'll start off with a listed contest. It's at 205, the Betweight Fairway Stakes. Now, Frank, I want to go to you first on this one because it seems like there's been a big move for this Raise You.
Yeah, I think earlier in the week it might have been 5-2, 11-4 or something like that, but it's not the case now. It's into 4-5. Al Halai is 7-2, Kuzam 9-2, Aids and Real 12-1, Stormway 14-1, and Target Zone is the outsider 25-1. I think it's just a function of Raise You's form has been very strongly franked. Obviously, he was second to King Oscar in debut on soft ground. Now, the one issue would be it's obviously good to firm in Newmarket, and both his runs have been with a fair bit of cut. So that would be the one small negative. But if he handles the fast ground, it's very difficult to see him beaten. If you go to his Newbury maiden win and go to soft, he won by 6 lengths that day. The third Roseman won by 5 lengths at Nottingham. The fourth Pour Me a Drink won a Haydock handicap of 75. The fifth Gold Stick won by 3.5 lengths at Weatherby. And even the sixth Light Up Our Stars won by 2.5 lengths at Chepstow, and like she was beaten 19 lengths, so that was a really good effort. As I said, the ground is probably the only thing that can beat it here, in my opinion.
Okay, red hot form that. And what about, we'll just stick with you, Frank, Al Hilali, because I think he deserves a bit of a chat based on how strongly he was fancied for the Guineas.
Yeah, he was well backed. A little bit of half time, a bit surprising he went off the price he did. They went off 8-1. Disappointed there. He's a little bit to prove after that. Like his Deauville listed race win is pretty solid form. I think Great Scott was back in third that day. He's a good mark. So he's definitely capable of making his mark here. But I think Rezu just looks like a horse going places.
Yeah, Keith, that form is just really, really.
It is, and I've although what I would sort of say about it is I've fallen for it a couple of times with races like that where, once the second and third have come out and shown their miles ahead of that level of form, the fact that the fourth and fifth and sixth do it becomes diminishing returns sometimes, and we can be guilty of getting really carried away about form like that and think it's a multiplier when it's not. Once you know it's strong form, the fact that the sixth comes out and wins.
So then would you say if you sort of have a novice race like that and maybe the second wins,
no, it doesn't have to be. You'd have to have more than one horse coming out and doing things. But once you know a few horses from that race have come out and really up the form from that, it doesn't become a multiplier every time another horse comes out and does that, because you know that form's really strong, and therefore you're just adding little bits rather than big chunks on top of what you already have. Because I've been guilty myself of getting really carried away with form where 5 horses have come out and won, and it can be a function of the races they choose sometimes. But there's also a bit of me, because I'm also a sucker for horses like Al Hilali, because he's superbly bred and really well regarded by Charlie Appleby, who's just, obviously Godolphin trainers are going to be good, but he is just arguably the best they've had. And the whole time they've been going, the pedigree's excellent, and the fact he was so well regarded to get supplemented for the Guineas.
That speaks big, doesn't it?
Absolutely, that's probably the reason he went off as short as he did, to be quite honest. It was too early up in big boy school, wasn't it? I think a little bit. He went a little bit loopy in that race. He's in a very warm listed race, but it's still down in grade from what he was. He's bred to be much better suited by a mile 2, and this is a race that Appleby won in 2014, and then won it last year with Old Persian, who obviously went on to win the King Edward, and his one before that was, I think, went on to running the Derby next time anyway. So he wins it with horses he likes. He sends horses he really likes into this race, and he obviously really likes this horse. And with all the background that horse has, I just think he's a horse I'll be following for a long, long time. Whether he's good enough today, I don't know, but I'm a bit of a sucker for horses like him.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because lots of people are going to get sucked in by Rezu, and a lot of people are going to get sucked in by Al Hilali. Keels, what sort of angle do you take on the race?
Well, the thing about Rezu is he was a bigger price earlier in the week, and to me, he's now a shocking price. I mean, everyone's lumped on him. Yes, second to sixth have all won against since, but he's not the only horse with form that has worked out. I mean, obviously, Al Hilali is clearly decent. He's obviously rated very decent to have been supplemented. But this Kazam, one at Kempton, that form's worked out really, really well as well. In fact, the near 10-length fifth, 100-1, is in this race, rated 92. That's target zone, who may be the outsider with a lot.
Guilty of getting too.
Yeah, you can get carried away by one race and not look at the others. I mean, Kazam to me is at least as interesting in terms of potential. Obviously very well bred. The other thing about Rezu, of course, is Lope de Vega. Now he can get horses going any ground, but I mean, I half associate him with an easy surface. Almost certainly going to be very fast at Newmarket, so he's got that question to answer. I would take a chance on Kazam for Roger Varian. Horses are going really, really well, and I just think he's just a nice type with plenty more to come.
Okay.
The betting with the front three, one of those three will win it, I'm pretty sure. Should be a little bit tighter than it is. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Okay, the 240 at Newmarket is the Betway King Charles II Stakes. It's another listed race, and it sees the return of Jash, who was second in the Middle Park to 10 Sovereigns last year. Favourites have won the last 3 runnings of this race. Can this horse do it again, Frank?
Yeah, well, he's 8-11, far above 3-1, Azano 11-2, and we're 12's bar. Look, the form of his Middle Park looks really strong. Like 10 Sovereigns, while he didn't really stay in the Guineas, he still ran really well. And just it's a matter of if Jash is anywhere near that sort of form, I think it'd be impossible for any of the rest to match that level, and I think he should win.
He's clearly got the quality kills, but I sort of think he's shaped like a real sprinter last year.
Well, I did too, but this is one of the reasons why I don't bet at short odds, because if I did, I would be absolutely unloading 8 to 11, because he should be nearer 3 to 1 on form. He is actually bred to get at least 7 furlongs. He should do. But he did look like a sprinter last year, but he was also very, very good, and he has a massive class edge over the ones with plenty of experience. And the market knows that, because the second favourite is Far Above. He's run once, but Far Above needs to improve the best part of a stone just to beat the next worst of the rest. You know what I mean? And then a stone more to get to Jash. He's got to do that, in 30 days, in a month. If Jash is anywhere near as good as he was last year, he was lightly raced last year as a 2-year-old Jash. There's no reason he isn't going to train on. I don't understand it. It should be miles shorter than he is.
Do you have big targets for him? I mean, I sort of thought Commonwealth Cup.
I mean, I would still be Commonwealth Cup. I would say that's where I'd love to see him, 10 Sovereigns and Calix getting it on in the Commonwealth Cup, wouldn't we? But
please.
He's in the Irish 2000. He's in the St James's Palace as well. So this is obviously a look at where they think they want to go.
Yeah.
If he sees the 7 furlong out really strongly, then he probably goes up. If he just hangs on or he gets beat, he probably comes back down.
Yeah, nice option to have, Keith.
Yeah, certainly is for him. And obviously the form claims he has makes it very difficult for what I'm about to say. I've watched it again, the Far Above race. That is a proper racehorse. That I'm sure it's a really good racehorse. It needs to improve an awful lot. I mean, it's a sort of horse that I would definitely back when it went up in grade after that win. Whether to do it against Middle Park second is another matter. That was just the sort of.
All right, I'm thinking he was really well backed as well.
Oh yeah, he went up favourite ahead of Franz Kafka, didn't he? Who was very well guarded himself, and he basically pissed all over him that day. To be quite honest with you, he just dossed at the end. Everything came so easy to him. The 2 were clear. He could have won that by lengths. It was his first. It was his first run as well. He can come on for that lows just in terms of experience. He did drift across to the other runner coming out of the dip. Obvious inexperience. I mean, this horse is a proper racehorse, but am I going to back him at 3s against the Middle Park second? You'd have to twist my arm a little bit, but that is my take out of this race.
For the future, then, what sort of race would you have in mind for him?
Well, he's bred to stay at least 7. He could end up in something like the Jersey, couldn't he? If he runs well enough here, or further down the line, the options open up. I think he'll get a mile. But he's going to be a group horse. Yes, okay. And he's running in a listed race, albeit against.
A group
Park second, yeah, exactly.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the problem.
An unpenalised Middle Park second as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it'd be exciting to see those horses returning. The 3:15 at Newmarket is the Betway handicap, won by Yafta last year, so it's clearly a good stepping stone. Frank, just take us through the betting.
Morawed is 3 to 1, Luxor 11 to 2, Dazzling Dan 13 to 2, Top Breeze 8 to 1, Usaini and James Water 9 to 1, Naughty Rascal 10 to 1, and we're 12's bar.
Keith, I'll go to you first. Do you have a strong opinion?
No, but it's another choose your fighter race as far as I'm concerned. You've got umpteen you could just pick, and you're on a well handicapped improving 3-year-old, and it's just a case if you're on the right one a lot of the time. I think in this one there's a good case for keeping it simple with Morawed, because he did give the impression of a horse who's only just getting going when he won last time. He's going to be a lot better than 88, and you're guaranteed that's going to go close among them. Whether he's the very best that handicapped them on the day, I don't think anybody could tell you, but I thought there was a case for keeping it simple in this one.
Okay, Frank, what about you?
I'd agree with Keith there. Like Dazzling Dan's a very good horse. They were nearly 3 lengths clear of the third the last day. Now Morawed looked beaten at the furlong pole, and the way he picked up and nailed Dazzling Dan on the line would suggest he's potentially a 100+ horse at least, and he only got £8 for that. Now Dazzling Dan's gone up 6, so he's £2 better off, but just the way Morawed picked up and the fact that there'll be a stiffer finish at Newmarket, I think he'll probably be very difficult to beat again.
Sounds very confident from Frank there. Keels, are you going to make it 3 for the
No, I'm the opposite. I'm a Dazzling Dan man. You have to take it around it. Yeah, yes, Morawed got back up and all that, but that was Dazzling Dan's first run of the season. Fully entitled to need it. Ran some good races in maidens last year before he won one, and he stayed on strongly when he did win one on easy ground. But he goes on anything. He was second to Jash, he was second to Watan, both very decent horses. That's why he got his mark of high 80s then, and he's up to 95 now. But it's one of those. If you swap the trainers over, he's trained by Pam Slater, then he'd be nearly favourite. He's £2 better off. I just don't think there should be as much between them in the betting as there is. Pamslide's Trade the Guineas winner. She's a perfectly good trainer. She, with the material she gets, and I think it's just got a big run in him.
Okay. Any other fancies on Saturday? We've got racing at Navan, Bangor, Newbury, Newmarket, Thirst, Doncaster, Uttoxeter, of course. Or there's the action in O'Toy. Keith.
Yeah, I've been looking about the French stuff this weekend. We're going to run some French tipping this weekend. I do actually quite like watching a bit of racing at O'Toy. I wouldn't say I've watched it week in, week out, but you get a handle on how these races pan out in France relatively well. And when these British...
Any tips in general?
It's like French flat racing. They just muck around until they turn in and then they sprint, and it's always testing ground. So I think in practice they can often work out like sort of small field Irish races a lot of the time, where the thing that gets out in front gets to dictate a lot of the time, and in France they don't tend to go quick early on, and horses get a lot further sometimes than you think they might. A lot of the time it's also the horse that takes to it. As long as a horse has mid-150s level ability, that's the level you sort of need to win it, and it's then a case of which horses act around the track and which horses suit the way the races pan out. So don't be scared to go down the order of the Mullins fancies is basically the overall sort of tip I'm giving here. And the Saturday it's the French equivalent of the Champion Hurdle, the Grand Course d'Aix, and the sort of, I thought Mr. Adjudicator was one. He's a horse that he's actually bred to be a sprinter, so he's already outstaying his pedigree by miles to get 2.5 miles. But he improved for it last time when he won, and in a race that it's not a 3.5 mile, a 3 mile one that takes loads and loads of getting. And if it does turn into a test of speed, he has that speed, and he's about 33s, and he has sort of the level of ability you need. And again, I'm a sucker again because the horse I absolutely love. I think it's 4s on, he's gone, but if he gets G'd up by the track or anything, York Hill's a 180 horse. He was one of the best horses in training 2 years ago, and he's one of the best horses.
Hates him.
I absolutely love York Hill, but he's a nutcase though, isn't he? And his 4s on, his head's gone, but he's 66s in a race where he could pick them up and carry them.
I mean,
I'm winding you up.
I got so much stick about when I dug into him, and I said, this is a horse guaranteed to disappoint you at some stage. I don't like being right when it's like that, but he just went off a cliff, didn't he?
Well, he did, he absolutely.
Don't like being right. Do you
screw loose that horse, absolutely.
Do you follow the French stuff?
I'll watch all the big racing, but I can't say, there's too much British stuff for me to look at.
Too much. Okay. Well, what are you looking at then on Saturday? Who else are you?
Oh, there's a few. There's Newmarket 5:35. Just a horse that's come right down the handicap and has been shaping like he's going to win at some point, but hasn't done so for a while. It has to be. Harry Hurricane is, best part of £20 load, and he was at the start of last year. He's run really well the last couple of starts. Got to go close. We go on to Newbury. We've got the 2-year-old race at Newbury, which will probably make Fort Myers favourite. It's at Aidan O'Brien.
Yes.
I think this is a race he brings a 2-year-old over just to have a look and see anybody else got a Royal Ascot 2-year-old, and it won't be anywhere near his best horse, and the form hasn't worked out very well. And I think Richard Hannon's Temple of Heaven, I was quite impressed with the way he got on top at Nottingham last time. I thought he actually won with loads in hand, and there's plenty more to come then. The 450, I mean, final Oaks trials as it is for one of the biggest eye catcher, or the biggest eye catcher of the year.
Yeah.
Sea of Faith, who was fourth to Sparkle
So
Roll.
excited
Now,
to see
I'm not saying back this because it'll probably get monstrously overbet anyway, and she wasn't exactly best behaved behind the stalls before not coming out of them. But just keep an eye on her because, obviously William Haggas won the race for Sea Class last year. She did look very good. I bet you she's miles better than Sparkle Roll, although she'll have to be after
If you've yet to have an Oaks
Musidora.
bet, it's an
it's definitely an interesting one. The 525 horse that used to be trained by Richard Hannon now has first run for Ivan Votado, Medahim. Got some plenty of decent big field handicap form to his name. Quite interesting first time out that he's booked Sean Levy, because the horse has only run 3 times in his life out of about 25 starts, but Sean Levy is 2 from 2 on him. So quite interesting that he's on that. He's definitely well enough handicap to win. Couple of old rogues, not rogues, Duke of Ferenz isn't a rogue, at Thirst, 245 Duke of Ferenz drops into class 4.
been running very well.
Company. He's been running okay. He's running off 83 against horses that wouldn't have got him off the bridle a couple of years ago. Have to remember, he was rated something like 108 last year, beginning of last year, and he's down to 83. So he's come down very quickly. Might be because he's just gone completely. But he looked like he retained all his enthusiasm at Chester last week on bottomless ground, and I think he can win that race. And a much more worrying one is Brian the Snail, who was tailed off at Chester last week. But he's been running, he's been running over the wrong trip. He is a sprinter, and he's been running over 7 furlong and a mile for ages. He's now actually £8 lower than when he won on fast ground at Doncaster last year. He's in the 3:35. So they would be mine.
We've got our money's worth out of you today, haven't we?
You have,
Definitely.
yeah. Plenty of time to study up. Had no sleep last night.
Frank, what extra have you got for us?
I only had 2 horses on my shortlist, and
Only 2?
And Paul's touched on both of them. Temple of Heaven for Richard Hannon. He's a good record in that race. He's won it 2 years in the last 3. And of course, Richard Hannon's a kind of different approach to his 2-year-olds compared to what they used to have maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where they'd all be out of the gates quick and get a win under the belts. They're definitely taking a longer term approach to them, and the fact that this could win on its debut the way it did is interesting. The second's come out and won at Beverley since, so I'd be interested in him. And that 10 furlong listed race, the Fillies one, is going to be a cracker. Obviously Queen Power was unlucky not to win at Ascot. She just couldn't get up in time, and I really was impressed with Lavender's Blue on her debut at Newmarket. I thought she did it very well. The 2 of them have potential to be Oaks fillies, and obviously Sea of Fate's the one that really caught the eye at Sandown. Obviously she fell out of the gate, lobbed around at the back. I think it was only about a furlong out James Doyle realised he actually could nearly win the race then at that stage, and he kind of got after her, and the way she finished was very impressive. The 6th and 7th both won maidens at Salisbury yesterday, so there's a bit of substance in the form despite the fact that Sparkle Roll disappointed in the Musadora. Now she's probably a short enough price for the Oaks, considering she's only been 4th in a maiden. She's about 14 or 16's best price, which would look kind of short enough to me. But at the same time, it'd be very interesting to see how she goes tomorrow. Were she to win impressively, she could be quite a short price for the Oaks. She'll definitely be a single figure price if she does win easily. Yeah,
that's the conundrum. I'm really keen on her for the Oaks, but you sort of think that's finished 4th in a maiden. That's all she's done. I feel like a bit of a fool for backing her, but.
A lovely docket if you back her at 16s tonight and she wins impressively tomorrow. But at the same time, there's horses at the same or bigger prices that have done far more, that are better bets at the moment in the Oaks, in my opinion.
That's exactly it. I think you're spot on. I don't think anyone could argue with that. Let's get your Saturday naps now.
This will not be beaten.
Keels, I'll go to you first.
I have absolutely no idea. I'll say Temple of Heaven. No, I won't. I'll say Romanised in the Lockinge 340. As in terms of most wrongly priced horse of the day, that is definitely it.
Okay. Big race banker then. Keith?
Well, at the very start, said they're all really competitive races. I think the one that is going to end up the best horse at the ones I've put up, Salhillahi, that's going to end up a really, really good horse.
Okay. And Frank?
I'm going to put up a Good Birthday in the 3 o'clock in the hope that the fast ground won't hinder him too much. If it doesn't, I think he will go really, really well.
Okay, we'll have a really quick look at some of the Irish action on Sunday just after this.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
So there's good racing at Naas on Sunday. We've got 2 listed races and 2 Group 3s. Keels, any fancies in any of them?
I fancy 2 Aidan O'Brien horses and a 3:15 Gossamer Wings. I thought she ran a really, really eye-catching race on her return. She'd be primed for this, and same in a 4:25. So perfect. Shaped like a sprinter all last year, up to 7 furlong for the Fred Darling. Only just got beat, coming back to 6 furlongs. I'd imagine, So Perfect would definitely be favourable. Gossamer Wings won't be far off.
Okay. Keith, any thoughts?
I mean, I've not got any strong view on the 3:15 particularly, but the 2:05 is quite a tight well race. But I thought on form, Settle for Bayes Hunt Cup form really stands out in that race, and you can sort of forgive what happened in Maidan. It's going to be an open market with a horse whose best form line actually sticks out. So that was a very sort of mild fancy. Flash Gordon in the 4:25 was one I quite like the look of as well. He won C&D. Maiden on his debut really quite well from a fancied one of O'Brien's, I think, and the next time maybe didn't quite cope with 7F that well. He sort of traded quite short, travelled well, maybe didn't quite see it out. He's back over 6F, a stiff 6F now, and might be one that will go well.
I like that fancy sort of 6F, 7F.
Sorry, yeah, I'm talking like I'm reading my notes. Almost.
All right, Frank.
There's no strong opinion, but in the 240, I think Chessman's very interesting. I'm not sure if Sunday will be the day he gets his head in front. But
bit of a cliff horse for a lot of people, isn't it?
I'm a fan. I think it was the Gigaset last year. He was a little bit unlucky. He didn't get the clearest of run. He flashed home for 5th, beating a length and a half. But He's been gelded. After his first run for Richard O'Brien, he was gelded, and he showed an awful lot at Navan over 5.5 furlongs in a listed race where he was held up last and came with a withering run down the outside and nearly nailed Sergei Prokofiev on the line. Now, that was a massive run. At the time, I was thinking it was a bit of a strange bit of placing because he was rated 95 and he looked a good thing off that mark, considering the time before that at Naas he was drawn really wide. Now, early on in the season there's been an absolute crazy draw bias at Naas, and if you were drawn high you had no chance, and he was only beaten under 5 lengths that day, drawn really wide, so it was an eye-catching run. If he doesn't win on Sunday, I kind of have him here marked as potentially a Wokingham horse, maybe, for Royal Ascot, so I'll be keeping a close eye on him. And in the 425, I might take a little bit of a chance on Inverley each way if the price allows. It's difficult to see what way to go, but So Perfect will definitely be favourite, and as Paul said, who's in there? Like the Irish Rover as well could be in there, but Inverley kicked the Irish Rover out of the way at Navan, and apparently she wasn't really working brilliantly before that, and that's why Don O'Connor rode and not Colin Keane, and the fact that she could produce a performance like that suggests she's very useful, and she might be an each way price against the favourite. I think she might surprise him.
Fantastic, thanks Frank. Quickly before we go, any other selections on Sunday, just shout up.
It's a Grand Steeplechase de Paris. It's a race I quite like. I've always loved watching a race. You get these chasers. Yeah, well, my next best at Auteuil this weekend, I've already had a little look, is I really think it's a sort of race that'll suit Acapella Bourgeois. Horse that gets out in front, gets jumping. It ran a really good race like that from the Irish National. Maybe didn't quite get home, but the 3 mile 5 at Auteuil won't be as sort of testing as it would be at Fairy House, especially if he gets out in front. And he's got Johnny Burke on him, who's absolutely brilliant at that sort of thing. He runs so many races just from the front doing that. If he adapts and can do it in France, I can see him running a massive race at about 14-1.
Yeah, sure to like the ground as well. Keels?
2. 1 over jumps at Market Raisin, 4 o'clock. William H. Bonney, trained by Alan King, had a couple of runs in much higher class since he won his previous 2. He's dropped down to within a pound of the last winning mark, and I think this dropped back in class off top weight.
Classy horse.
Classy horse, yeah, he'll do it. I think he'll win. And in the 420 at Ripon Just Hiss, I thought ran a really, really nice first return at Haydock last time on soft ground. He goes on pretty much anything. He ran in 2 decent races at Ripon last year, was beaten less than a length in both of them. One of them worked out very well as well. So back at Ripon, 420 Just Hiss, and that's your lot.
That's a lot. I think we've definitely had a lot to look at. Frank, finally.
Just correct myself there, Inverley's actually a colt, it's not a filly, just from earlier, my mistake there. Just Stratford 410, Killian's well for John Flint. He's a trainer I really like, I actually had a horse with him once. He's a very good trainer, very astute. He nearly pulled off a monster double at Worcester there, was it 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago? There was one double figure price into 6-4, and it was very unlucky to be second, but his Killian's well won on the card that day, well punted also, and he's only gone up £3 for that. He's won at Stratford before, and I think he might be able to win again.
Okay, one under the radar there from Frank. That's all we've got time for today. As always, please make sure you rate, review and subscribe. I'll be back on Monday, so best of luck with your weekend punts.
Paddy Power Games has over 250 of your favourites to play online, and we're going to attempt to name them all in this 10-second ad before the T's and C's kick in. There's Blackjack, 18+, begambleaware.org.